Good evening, Razorbacks. Welcome to another episode of the Hog Talk podcast presented to you by FanDuel, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios, part of the Believe and Buzz Radio Network, where you can hear us each week on 106.7 Buzz 2 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are coming to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I am Porter Hayes, and alongside me, as always, is Adam Hall. On tonight's show, we will recap the 34-31 loss to Tennessee, talk about some A&M breakdown, and some other college football news. As you heard, Tennessee beats Arkansas 34-31 in a game where the defense kind of stepped up. Yes, they gave up a lot of yards, but it was turnovers, and you could even say a missed call on, whether or not they should have went with that field goal. But overall, what was your thoughts from the game yesterday?
I was kind of surprised. I had, I believe, a 13-point win for Tennessee in the prediction. When we got to the third quarter and it looked like Arkansas was back in the second half woes, obviously they remedied that the fourth quarter, 14 points, but it turned out a lot better than I thought. In the grand scheme of things, there's still issues. 3 lost fumbles. I think there was 4 fumbles overall. That's something that's got to stop. Taylor, the way he runs with the ball, sometimes having it out, not having it tucked, which I know, his fumbles were more so on contact when he kind of had it tucked, whatever. It wasn't when he was just out running. But it's one of those things that's just tough because you go back and, you had 3 lost fumbles, not kicking the field goal on that fourth down, which, it's one of those things. I get why they went for it. Because that would have been a huge momentum swing than just getting the 3 points. And it's a complete toss up for the coach to do in that sense. I honestly, when they called the timeout, didn't think that they were going to go ahead and go for it. I thought they'd go ahead and send up the field goal unit after that. But it was tough to stomach in a sense, because once again, fourth quarter, you think this is kind of done once Tennessee goes up double digits, and then Arkansas claws their way back, and you're sitting here kind of like, okay, here we go. And even on, Tennessee's last drive or whatever it was, before Aguilar's run that he got the wind knocked out of him or whatever it was, the 28-yard run or something like that, you're sitting there thinking like, okay, we can get the ball back. And then that run happened and obviously kind of negated all that. But it was something we saw fight in them that we hadn't seen previously. They didn't give up. So kudos there. 1 penalty for 10 yards the entire game, I thought was a big deal. So this is something they just need to build off of it. Tennessee was the 12th ranked team in the country. Anybody that just thought that we were just going to come in and Petrino work as Petrino magic, I mean, they've still got things that they've got to work on.
Yeah, absolutely. We knew they were going to give up plays. We knew they were going to give up yards. So if I'm going off expectations only, if I'm grading this game of how I expected Arkansas to play offensive, defensively, I was impressed. From the defense. Offense, you can't give a team like that the ball 3 times. And you brought up a good point, because it seemed like, look, if you're studying film and you're watching what Tennessee is doing on defense, you got to adjust of knowing they were flying in, having contact with the ball. They are hitting the ball. When they're coming in, they're not wrapping up at your legs. They're coming in to try to knock the ball loose. They did that so many times. To the field goal. Yes, it's like, here's the thing. When we talked about this, I can't remember what show it was. We talked about the momentum shift. Which one would bring a bigger momentum swing out of the fans' reaction from the team? Would it be a missed field goal, or would it be going for 4th down and getting stopped? And I think, honestly, you'd have the same reaction. It's just, to me, I think the fact that got to, I mean, you can sit here and say, and from my standpoint, kick the points, and you could have very easily got the first down, but danged if you do, danged if you don't. I'm not saying that, it's easy to say now, 3-point game. I wish, and I said that after the game, hey, you could have used that field goal, and they could have. But it's the thing that third quarter, when we were talking, it's like they got clicking, they went away from the run. What happened with that kind of play calling? Because you've seen in the fourth quarter how they opened things up and mixed it up with the run, passes the tight end. CJ Brown was opening up. Raylan Sharp was doing good. Gosh, what was the other one? Jones had a couple of good plays. Blake was having a very good day. That's the one I was thinking of. You were opening the field up, and it was allowing Mike Washington to have a really good game. I don't know. They're talking about getting over that hump. I think that has to go on the coach on the third quarter. Like, you were moving the ball so well on them. Why did you abandon all of that in the third quarter? And the defense was holding their own. And you can go to turnovers. Look at the field position they were getting off those turnovers. And you talk about momentum swing. Let's try for the points, but turnovers are a huge momentum swing. So, danged if you do, danged if you don't on that aspect. But from overall aspect, I was really impressed with the defense coming out. You had a woeful third quarter, and they hung in there, giving themselves a chance to win the game. And that's what, hopefully, I mean, per FanDuel, the opening line for the A&M game, 7.5. So, right here, the home team gets a 7-point advantage. So they're kind of using it as a toss-up. So that gives Arkansas some kind of hope heading into this A&M game at home. If the defense plays the way they did, but the offensive clicks all 4 quarters, we could see a victory on Saturday.
I think something that we saw, with getting away from the run in the second half, I feel like Bobby Petrino has done that throughout the history of him, whether he's the one play calling or he's the head coach overall. Like he has gotten away from the run more often than not, and I've not understood it. And he's not the only one that's done it before. There's several teams that do this, and I just don't really understand. But at the same time, it's one of those, they still kept themselves in position. Even getting down, I think it was 34-17 at one point. Being able to dig their way out to make it a 3-point game. We hadn't seen that a whole lot. And, I myself have questioned Taylon Green and this offense on getting down double digits and can they fight back? And they showed here that they can, especially in an environment when you had 100,000 plus. I mean, we saw some of those third downs were just absurdly loud. And it's one of those things that they battled through. And maybe when it came down to the field goal, like, yeah, you're looking at the momentum side of things. And like you said, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I feel like trying for it on fourth down and not getting it was better off than missing the field goal. I feel like missing the field goal would have been a bit more deflating. You do have a freshman kicker. His only missed field goals came at Ole Miss. This is a much going more hostile environment than Ole Miss. So, maybe that adds some weight to it. Or maybe it was just flat out, no, we're going to try to do this to completely shift the game. And it's one of those, we can all sit back and look on what they should have done. But in that moment, I think a lot of us, as if we were in those shoes, we probably would have made the same call.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, it's easy to say it now, looking hindsight of it being a 3-point victory. It's what you have to do. And the interesting part about the whole thing, post-game, post-conversation, is the fact that you're hearing the same things they said about the Ole Miss game. You're hearing people say that, we were one play away from a top 10 team or top 20 team. We seen fight. You've seen this in the Ole Miss game. Same, but you're sticking up for Bobby Petrino. Yes, you've seen more fight, but it's the same outcome. It's the same 1-score loss. And I do want to kind of clarify, we put out a thing that said Bobby Petrino was 0-1 in 1-score games. We're talking about strictly this tenure, not talking about 15 years ago. We're talking about right now. So we're just pointing out similarities because, Adam, we are looking at him as being a potential candidate for the full-time job. And we've always been honest on this show. We've always been game to game analysis on what we've seen. And if we're going to give him the keys to this thing full time, we have to sit here and look at, are we really seeing things differently? Or are we kind of, do we put the glasses, rose-colored glasses back on because it's Bob Petrino? If this was a different coach, would this have been another? I think if it wouldn't have been Bobby Petrino out there coaching, there would have been a lot of different sayings. They'd have been, see, look, what happens. New coach, same results. Or why did we get rid of Sam when this guy's doing the same thing? So when we look at the game and look at that third quarter, that was coaching. You went away from the run. I think I seen somewhere they're saying he had 6.4 yards a carry, 6 yards a carry, and you went away from that. You went away from your tight ends. You didn't throw to your tight ends as much. And I don't know, again, if that was blocking scheme because it was Tennessee. I mean, they were bringing a lot of pressure. So we could have had a similar situation like last year why you didn't use tight ends because the O-line was just getting killed. So you had to have those tight ends blocking for you. But we'll see this week. Because this was the test. I said, if you're going to get the most out of the team, it's going to be this very first game. Now let's go. How do they respond? You get all hyped up on the road. You hold Tennessee to 17 points below their average. Not talking about moral victories. It's something to build on. You have 6 more games left. So there's still a chance to win some of these games, but you're digging yourself a hole if you're trying to get bowl eligible. Mm-hmm. And I don't see – I mean, you look at Mississippi State, Auburn, we know what happened then. We'll talk about the rest of the SEC games in the second segment, but Texas A&M looked pretty good yesterday.
They did. Something fell. Let me see. Like this right here, going into the game plan, going into playing A&M. I think that Arkansas needs to stick with what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Because like we talked about with Volbros, this is something that Texas A&M's offense is not that good. So if you go out and score 31 points on Texas A&M, there's a good chance you're going to beat them.
Yeah.
So I think that you have to stick to what you've been doing. We've always heard, Petrino likes the 50-50 when it comes to running and passing. I think that you have to stick to that. I just look, Mike Washington is averaging 6.6 yards per carry for the whole season. And so that's something that use it, build off of it. He can be your workhorse. And at the same time, we saw, Braylon Russell came in, and I mean, he had, I think it was 8 carries for 60-something yards or 40-something yards, something like that. And he had that 22-yard burst or 23-yard burst, whatever it was. So, you've got the guys in the backfield that can keep the momentum. Because if you're sitting there getting 3 or 4 yards every carry, great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's something that I think that they need to look at too. Like they did a good job yesterday of not being behind the sticks when it came to second down. They got 3 to 5 yards consistently on first down. And, we didn't see as much 2 to 4 play drives ending in a touchdown. We saw more methodical 4 to 5 minute, 6 minute drives. And I think that that's what Arkansas needs to do. Obviously, if you have the chance to score in 2 plays, go for it. But going into A&M, I think you need to look back, keeping the balanced attack, protecting Talon. Because, first play of the game in Tennessee, getting sacked. That's one thing that I'm still kind of leery about, but the offensive line still did hold their own. So it's just something that build off of it, go into this next game and just know that A&M has a not that great offense. And I'm not saying that that's going to bail out the defense, but I just think they don't have enough offensive power to keep up with Arkansas's offense if Arkansas's offense can control time of possession, game clock, all that.
Yeah, and that game will be 2:30 on ESPN again via FanDuel. 7.5-point underdog for the Razorbacks. Over under is 60.5. So just like this one, they were expecting a more high scoring game, 34-31. So I think what it was 62.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 62 or was it 69 for the Tennessee game?
I thought it was 62, but I could be wrong.
But this right here, yes, want to bring it up. The reason why my slight edge goes to the coach, if we're going between coach and new defensive staff, because your defense held them to only 7 points, or held them to 7 points in the fourth quarter. That's big. That is huge, especially in a close game. That's when you're going to get the most out of Tennessee. You know, it's a close game. They're trying to put this thing away. The defense gave them a chance to win the game. So, yes, it has improved a lot. Yeah, and in today's game, you look at it. I mean, the way things are called, the way penalties and roughing the passer, pass interference, all that stuff's called, you're going to get these 300, 400, 500-yard games every now and then. But when you're looking at the effort and when it comes to time to get a big stop, they did that multiple times. And I'll say this, outside of the Braylon Russell fumble, that to me was just a heck of a hit. I mean, he got hit twice. So I don't really give him too much to blame on that, because that was just a good football play. I think if 99% of the running backs or wide receivers in the country were in that position, that ball would have come loose, because he got hit, rocked, kind of turned to the side, and then he got hit again. So it wasn't like Taylor when he was going over, you know, you got to know if they're coming in flying on the ball, you got to keep that ball tucked. And that's where Taylor's got to get better. And then that fluke play where it looked like he was trying to throw it and fumble, he's got to be better at that. He's got to be better when it comes to scrambling, throwing on the run. So that's the biggest part is you take two of those away. What are we looking at? Because they were driving down the field, they had everything clicking, and then the fumble. So it's hard to really blame the defense when they were much improved from what we've seen in the past. And again, when your expectations, you know, you're getting out of the defense, and for them to play the way they did for 4 full quarters, you got to give them some props.
And you know, going back to that, I don't blame either one for the loss. I give them credit for what they put out on the field and what they got prepared within 2 weeks. And it's one of those things, I'm trying not to overhype this game either, just because of how bad Tennessee's defense has been. And so it's one of those, and I'm not trying to like talk down or whatever on what Arkansas did, because they could have very well laid down.
Absolutely.
And they didn't. So it's one of those things that I think that you take it and build off of it. I think that the coaches and the players deserve a lot of credit for what they did within that 2-week period. A lot of unknown, and a lot of guys that, you know, from what we heard from the coaches, and I think that we saw on the field too, you got a lot of vocal leaders step up in the locker room, step up at practice, and you saw it translate onto the field that they were more dialed in yesterday than we've seen them in previous games. So I don't feel like any of the players should have, you know, walked out of there with their heads down. You know, at the same time, here we go again, another game that we lost, and there's tiffs happening after the game between players. It's one of those things that I get it. Emotions are high, but like, stop. You know, the players need to stop fighting after games. And, you know, it's one of those things too with Omega Blake flipping off the crowd after Arkansas's first touchdown.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. And I'm going to say this too, to fans in general, but this goes out to, I guess, a specific Tennessee fan. never in your taunting of another team put a deceased player's jersey on a skeleton as a prop trying to be funny or cool.
Yeah.
Because it was one of the most asinine things that I've ever seen, one of the most disgusting things that I've seen.
Yeah, it's one of them things that you're taking things too far. Everything has a line, and you didn't just cross the line; you hop, skipped, and jumped over the line. I mean, that's you. That's not trash talking. That's beyond. That's just straight up. That ain't even trolling. That's just being nasty, And we all want to do our things to be funny, or we knew in this day and age, okay, that's going to get a lot of hype. Let's do that. That will be so cool. But it was very tasteless of the thing that they did, and there's no place for it. There's ways to troll and to be funny and go. You can hit. Like in boxing, you got the belt. Hit it right there at the belt, but not below. And that was just way too much, and you got nothing out of it. Yeah. Hey, congratulations on the win, but when it comes to that stuff, that there's no place for that in football or any sports or any kind of trash talking. It's just you're talking about a person that is no longer with us, and you thought it'd be cute, and you know what what I would love to hear, and it would be just as disrespectful as if you sit there, just own it like a man or whoever that you did it. Don't try to say, well, it was almost Halloween and I was dressing up that for, no, you knew what you're doing. And that's the biggest part of it. Don't double down on it or try to talk your way out of it. It was nasty and should not have even been thought of.
Mm-hmm. And, I honestly expect Talon to improve. Throughout the season, because with this being his last 6 games, barring something miraculous that they get to a bowl game, he's got a lot to show in these last 6 games to NFL scouts. This is something that he cannot just rely on the combine to up his draft stock. So I think these next 6 games, he is truly going to have to show his full ability and his full leadership and all of his intangibles. So this is something I expect the next 6 games to hopefully, knock on wood, be hopefully the 6 best games that we've seen out of Talon Green. That would be my expectations and hope for him to finish out the season.
Yeah. Look, you've got 3 games at home. Your next 3 games are all in Fayetteville. And it starts with the number 4 team in the country, A&M, which the odds 7.5 toss up. Then you have Auburn. They have a week to get over the meltdown against Georgia and all that stuff. I'd be worried if you're getting Auburn right after that game. What happened with Georgia? They would be on fire, and we know how Hugh Freeze is. Very familiar with Bobby Petrino. Then you have Mississippi State. So look at it as a 3-game set because you have a bye week after that Mississippi State game. Give everything you have these next 3 weeks at home because you think about it. You pull off an upset next week, then you go into you're going to be favored these next 2 games. If you're 7.5 point underdog to the number 4 team in the country, that should be your motivation. That you were just 1 quarter away from offensive playing together from a win. Then you go to Mississippi State, you win that, and then you have the bye week before you head to Baton Rouge and finish out the year at LSU, at Texas, and then Missouri. So, you can, so you win, let's be weird here. You win 3 in a row. That puts you at 5-4. All you got to do is win one of the next 3 games, you're bowl eligible. And how cool would it be for everything that happened, Adam? We had them at 5-7. There's a lot of people 5-7, 4-8, 3-2. I'm not saying go crazy and win 7 or 8 games or go on a tear, but you get to play in a bowl game. You get bowl eligible. But then you got to look at the big picture, and it's like, okay, if they get big picture, or I mean, not big picture, if they get bowl eligible, does that automatically ensure that Bobby Petrino will get the head coaching job?
I think it's one of those things that he try to see how I can word this without giving too much. I think that he needs to win at least 3 games as interim head coach, not just, one more win, to be heavily considered.
Yeah.
It's one of those that I think just winning 3 games puts him into the more serious conversation of being the next coach. But I don't anything below that, I don't think he becomes head coach unless he is just the fallback option. If he gets 3 to 4 wins over these next 6, then I think he would be heavily considered for it.
Mhm.
But I think anything below that, I think that he falls to the fallback plan, that if we
Yeah.
don't get somebody else, then he'll get it.
Yeah, and look, there is a chance. I mean, they're only a 7.5 point underdog. They were 13.5 point against Tennessee. It was a 3-point game. I mean, there is a chance they win this game. Like you said, A&M's offense is not that good. And you are playing them at home. My thing is, this will be the biggest telltale of truly where this team is. You expected them to come out hyped. They showed up hyped. They did it. They lost by 3. How are they going to take that motivation? What are they going to do with that? Are they going to build with that motivation of, man, we were right there. We're only a 7.5 point underdog to A&M. Let's go out there and win this thing. Or let's go out there and, if our offense would have done this, or if our defense would have done this, we wouldn't have fumbled. You come into the game this Saturday at home. Darren McFadden, I believe, is that the game? Darren McFadden will be in the building. If there is a chance they win, not saying they will. I don't know if I'll pick them to win, but you want to give this team hope that there's a chance to win this game. I think there is. Just seeing how they played. Same style of offense, dual threat quarterback, Marcel Reed. Hey, the thing about it this year, he's a starting quarterback. He's not a backup quarterback.
Sure.
Backups seem to give us more of trouble than starting quarterbacks. But you got to look, we can all be mad. We were really mad about the Sam Pittman stuff, and he finally got fired. And yes, Bobby Petrino, another, but you got to be realistic of how you've got to give credit where credit was due.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said it perfectly. You can give for them to have just 2 weeks to prepare for Tennessee, and for the coaching staff, the defensive changes, all the outside noise, and for them to play that way. Yeah, I was impressed. So let's see how they build off of that. And let's hope for a win. Let's hope for that 1-score win. And then take it game by game for the rest of your out.
Second segment, we'll get into the coaching questions, James Franklin, yes, Bobby Petrino, et cetera. My last little bit before we go to break is just going to be, I think the outside of winning yesterday, the best thing for this team happened, showing fight, almost pulling it out. And at the same time, I think that helps the fans to want to show up on Saturday to give and show their full support. I think if the Arkansas had just laid down yesterday and killed over, I think you would have had a hard time filling the stadium, even with the number 4 team coming in. But I think the product that they put out on the field Saturday will help pack Razorback Stadium.
And with that, we're going to take a commercial break, hear a word from our sponsors, but when we come back, we'll start talking about the coaching search, coaching news. Should Bobby Petrino be the full-time head coach? But then we'll talking about another coaching move that happened in the Big Ten with James Franklin no longer being the head coach at Penn State. We'll get our thoughts on that right after the break. Searching for premium brewery products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with only the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience.
With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are crafted in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company. Are you looking for a place to grab a cold drink and some delicious food? Look no further than Arkansas Brewing Company. Located at 201 South 1st Street in beautiful downtown Ozark, our establishment offers a wide selection of craft beers and tasty eats. But what sets us apart is our welcoming atmosphere and friendly staff. At Arkansas Brewing Company, you'll always feel like part of the family. So visit Destiny and Christopher Brockett and staff today and see for yourself what makes us the go-to spot for locals and visitors alike. Arkansas Brewing Company, come for the drinks and stay for the friends. Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and the supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Mentor's Hardware Store. With locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville, our vast selection of hardware and building materials is sure to have everything you need. Whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck, plus our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance. And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Mentor's Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today and let's build something amazing together.
Are you looking to take your career to the next level? Look no further than ATU Ozark Campus. As a 2-year satellite campus of Arkansas Tech University, we're dedicated to a quality workforce education, industry partnerships for in-demand jobs, and tailored paths for success. Our programs are led by industry professionals. Whether it's a certificate or you're aiming for a graduate degree, ATU Ozark has you covered. Visit our website at www.atu.edu/Ozark or contact us at 479-667-2117. Your future begins here. Welcome to Ozark Area Chamber of Commerce, where our mission is simple: encourage, promote, and aid an enduring environment of shared economic opportunity and civic development for the Ozark, Arkansas area. Whether you're a local business owner or a resident, we've got something for you. Shop our unique local businesses, explore the beauty of Ozark, and savor local flavors and find cozy accommodations. Join us in building a stronger community, and to learn more, contact us at 479-667-2525. Remember, together we thrive.
And welcome back to the Hog Talk podcast. And now we'll get into some coaching talk. I know there was a question right before the break of, so no matter how the season plays out, do you guys want or don't want Bobby Petrino to be the next head coach? Adam?
I do not. And I've been firm on this, and it is not a shot in any way, shape, or form at Coach Petrino. I'm tired of circling the block with former coaches in whatever capacity it is. And I would just like to see a complete new regime come in.
Yeah.
And like I've said before, you've, joined in. That starts with the athletic director and works it works its way down.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those I would just like all new faces in here.
Same thing, because I hate to not sound disrespectful to Bobby Petrino, but if you have Bobby Petrino next year, that means Hunter Yurachek's here next year. I don't think, because this goes into this next question right here. Would Bobby be better in the NIR since it's more business oriented and not the old style recruiting? Not as long as Hunter Yurachek is the athletic director at the University of Arkansas. You will never win. You will never sniff the college football playoff. You'll never get the recruits. You'll never get the players. You'll never get the NIL money if Hunter Yurachek is the athletic director at the University of Arkansas. We've said that. There was a comment on one of our tweets or something about, we're just saying this from his comments this year at the Little Rock Touchdown Club. And me and Adam have both been adamant about this since last year's Touchdown Club when he made the comments about Walmart and Tyson. I think you need somebody that wants to come in and embrace the new era, wants to embrace that, yes, you have 39 other championships or conference championships in other sports, but you need somebody to come in that wants to put football first. And I'm sorry, no disrespect to the other programs, But when you're coming to revenue, you're talking about business, you're talking about the grand scheme of your athletic program, you got to put football first. And that money, players, because I'm telling you, you put the football program first and they're successful, it is going to make all your other programs better.
Mm-hmm.
If you get somebody to come in, get this, if you find your John Tyson for football, if you find these things for football to come in with these NIL deals and stop worrying about rev share being these end all save all and being the level playing field, that is naive thinking. And that is for that reason right there alone, for thinking that rev share is going to be the only thing and everybody's going to be playing with $20.5 million is ludicrous. It's ignorance. So if that's their thinking, we need somebody who thinks differently. So if it means we get a new head coach and new athletic director, then that's where we need to go. Now, for the chance of we're going to bring in a new athletic director and there's a chance Bobby Petrino stays, maybe. But really, Adam, I'm with you of we need a whole fresh new start. We've seen it being done from up-and-coming coaches, Dan Lanning. We've seen Signetti. We've seen Golish. We've seen Summerall. We're seeing these people be more successful outside of Oregon. I'm talking about Indiana, South Florida, Memphis, Tulane. We're seeing lesser programs be more successful than the Razorbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what you could say, well, Arkansas is in the SEC. Well, they need to be an SEC type team. If you're going to hold them to the standard that they're in the SEC, they need to have an SEC caliber coach. They need to have an SEC caliber athletic director, and they need to have an SEC caliber players. So until all that happens, I think we definitely need a change.
Well, and the names started getting thrown out in various groups, and I think a lot of it's just the folks that don't want to circle the block with Bobby Petrino for whatever the reason may be. But we keep seeing Signetti's name thrown out there and by fans, and I understand where it's coming from. But at the same time, I'm like, why would he come here? I mean, what was his deal? Like $9 million a year or something like that? Like 8 years, 72
million buyout, I believe.
And he's from Pennsylvania. He played at West Virginia. It's one of those things. Outside of 3 years that he was assistant coach at Alabama, I mean, he's been in the Northeast essentially. He's a Big Ten guy just from everything else. And we've talked about before, that the Big Ten, here we are neck and neck on who's the better league at this point. They've got the last 2 national championships. Obviously, SEC's reigned supreme for so long, but at the same time, it's like, it's one of those things. Any day of the week, you could say SEC, you could say Big Ten. You have an argument for both of them. So what would entice him, especially after, doing what they did yesterday and beating Oregon
on the road?
It's one of those that you're not going to get Signetti. You're not going to get Dan Lanning. So we've got to be more realistic with it. Do I think that we get Rhett Lashley? No, I don't. It's one of those, I get that he's number 1 on the list. I don't think it's going to happen. And you have to start looking at your other options. Do I want that to be Dan Mullen? Hell no, I do not. And it's one of those, I've had this kind of back and forth with some folks, and I know what his record was in the SEC. I get that, but I feel like I don't want this to be a stepping stone job for somebody. And there's nothing that Dan Mullen could say or do that would make me think that he wouldn't be using this just to get out of UNLV, get back to the SEC, and then try to get to a bigger program after Arkansas. I'm tired of Arkansas being used for paychecks or being used as a stepping stone. And so I don't want, Dan Mullen in that mix. And like I just said, I don't think it's not going to be Rhett Lashley. So at this point, if it's not going to be, either one of them or Bobby Petrino, I think this is finally the time. If you're not going to go get an established head coach, you finally take your chance on an up-and-comer coach, but one that has had coaching experience I don't think, we had the report that came out that, Missouri's offensive coordinator interviewed. I'm to the point, I don't even want a coordinator that has no head coaching experience. I want somebody that has head coaching experience. I don't want it to be somebody that was either a position coach or a coordinator, and then, we're going to have somebody like we had Barry Odom or Bobby Petrino here to help the actual head coach do his job and give him advice and all that. It just muddies the waters way too much.
Yeah. When you're talking about Kirk Cignetti, let's talk about Indiana. Let's talk about the Big Ten. With the expansion of the college football playoffs, we're not in a 4-team playoff where the SEC is bullying their way to get 2 to 3 of the 4 spots every year. That's where we've been. You've had to win the ACC outright undefeated, or if you had a 1-loss, win the conference, be 15-1 or 13-1 heading into it and being a clear cut like what Clemson did. Any other college or any other record, there's no way you had a chance to get in. So would you stay at a school in the Big Ten where now they're going for 12, possibly 16? And you're in a position to get in the college football playoff every single year. Because look, we can argue on who's the better conference per se, but when you're allowed the same amount of teams, top 4, how many of those years would Arkansas be in the top 4 in the SEC?
I'm going to just address this real quick.
Okay.
This comment, we're not sitting here downgrading everything. I'm not going to sunshine pump. I'm not just going to hand Bobby Petrino the keys to everything after one game. It's one of those that I'm not going to do it. If y'all want to do it, be my guest. And also, you don't have to capitalize that many letters in what you're typing out.
Okay.
But it's one of those.
He was giving us a name. I think that's why he was. But that's. Go ahead.
Everybody has the right to their opinion. And at the same time, start throwing some names out there. If you want it to be Bobby Petrino, tell me why. Yeah. I'll listen to it. I'll listen to the conversations. But just because your answer being what he did yesterday, and that's just because what you want, that's not a legitimate reason. Give me a reason on why he deserves it. I don't want to circle the block with a coach that's been here before. And it's the same thing in any sport. So that's just the Arkansas thing to do, is to go bring somebody in that's been here before. We've seen it I think at that point I don't feel like you're putting in a full effort or a full search to find a coach. I don't feel like, it makes me feel like you're not fully serious in your football program. We've already established that you need to go pay for a head coach and not just try to get the best deal. You bring somebody in at $6 million a year, what we were paying Sam Pittman, I don't think you've won in that.
Yeah. You get a discount. And look, Cignetti's 61. I was just looking at, he coached at Elon, then he coached at James Madison, and now what he's done at Indiana. He played at West Virginia. And again, you're in the Big Ten. And if they go through with this 16, I don't know all the details in concrete, but I believe what they're wanting is a 16-team playoff, and the Big Ten and SEC get 4 automatic bids of those. So again, would you want to stay at a school where you're at, where every year you're in a position to win? Because look at Penn State. We'll get that in just a second. They're without a coach. So where's that? Who are they going to go for? Because guess what? I'll tell you what. They're looking at Penn State as a better program than Arkansas, because yes, they might have flamed out with James Franklin, but they know all you got to do is get top 4 in the Big Ten. And all right, so you got Oregon and Michigan, or Oregon and Ohio State. The other 2 are going to be up in the air every year. And if Indiana keeps going the way they're doing, there's 3. So there's one team. You come to Penn State and you do what Cignetti's doing, you're in a position to be in the college football playoff every year.
And I think because there was already a list that came out, or betting lines that are already out for the Penn State job, and I think Segnetti was at the top of it.
See, I wouldn't do. I mean, it'd be a lateral move.
I'm trying to see here. I'm not.
And another thing with Signetti, and this is another thing. Indiana is what Michigan State used to do. D'Antonio is taking people with no stars and they're developing them into a college football playoff team. His style matches the type of players he gets. He gets these guys in and makes them better. He is a no-nonsense coach.
Mm-hmm.
Would his style fit at a Penn State or an Ohio State or at an Oregon? If you're getting 5-star recruits, are they going to react to that no-nonsense type of play opposed to you're coming into a program that's Indiana and you're proving everybody wrong who thought last year was a flash in the pan, it was a fluke. Now look where they're at. So just because it's an up in the elite conversation doesn't automatically mean that's a good fit. Look at Brett Bielema. He's doing better at Illinois than he was doing in Arkansas. And then he was doing better at Wisconsin. There are some guys that are just Big Ten fits. And they might not translate to we're going to get 4-star, 5-stars. Now, in the Arkansas standpoint, the style of what you got to recruit with, I think he would do really good at getting the type of talent that Arkansas gets and putting them in a position to compete. But you're in a better position in the Big Ten to be in the top 4 opposed to how you are in the SEC. That's what I'm getting at. And the grand scheme of everything now is making that college football playoff. So I see him staying where he's at. And plus, you don't want the buyout. You're talking about saving money and where you are. That's a lot of money that he's going to be. I'm pretty sure Arkansas would have to pay that buyout, right? Would they be on the hook for that?
That would just kind of come down to if they agreed upon anything.
Okay.
What it boils down to, like, one of the issues with like Brett Bielema and his buyout when he left Arkansas, when he went to work for the Patriots, they weren't reporting what he was making because whatever they make in their next stop deducts from the buyout from the other school.
Because Pittman got something where he could go be a head coach somewhere.
His was because he got a promotion.
Yes.
So when you're the head coach, it's a lateral move at that point. Because they on a lot of those clauses too, they have so long before they have to actively be searching for, their next job or whatever. So, there was immediately after James Franklin got fired, you had the people that were putting him, should Arkansas go after James Franklin?
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of back and forth on it. It's
just
one of those
the big games. He hasn't won the big games in the Big Ten. When you're talking about, even when we're talking about conferences, I'm talking about making the college football playoff and making a run. It's easier in the Big Ten. You're coming down to Arkansas. Yeah, he done it at Vandy, but that was pre-NIL. How would that go? And if you're not winning these big games in the Big Ten, I don't think you're going to win the big games that Arkansas needs to compete in the SEC. And this right here, Bobby Petrino has that, and he can recruit. Just give him time. No, that was the wrong one. That was the wrong comment. It was, here, this one. Pittman couldn't do it in less than exactly what Sam Pittman could do in 2 weeks. He lost a 1-score game. This is what I was talking about at the first of the show. We're giving Bobby Petrino a pass because of the nostalgia, because what he did 15 years ago, your defense showed more effort, but you still lost a 1-score game. And potentially, if we want to kind of throw it in there, his call that he admitted after the game he regrets taking back is the field goal. So that one call could have cost you. Now we're going into overtime with a chance to win the game. So I understand everybody is hyped about Bobby Petrino. We are hyped. We gave it the same thing when Cal came over, when Bobby Petrino was announced as the offensive coordinator. But we really have to take a step back, folks, and look, where do we want this program to go? Where do we think the next 4 to 5 years of this program is going to go? And unless I see things differently from this Texas A&M game, I'm in the same boat as we need new blood coming in. And again, If you're not getting the support from the higher ups or the boosters to give money, it doesn't matter what kind of coach he is, because you're going to get the same results because you have the same athletic director.
But, like, I get James Franklin has struggled in big games. But I guess I'm kind of looking at it in a sense, yes, you have a lot of big games at Arkansas versus ranked opponents. But at the same time, are we glossing over the fact that he has like 8-10 win seasons, that he won 13 games last season, that he's consistently in the top 10, 2 back-to-back 9-win seasons at Vanderbilt? I guess I'm looking at it like, are we setting the bar too high for what we expect in the next head coach? By talking, that's why we're against James Franklin, is because he can't win in these big games and this, that, and the other. It's like we're throwing away that he's had 8-10 win seasons and that Vanderbilt had 2 9-win seasons back to back. Like, this is something that I feel like, just say that you don't want him as your coach, and that's fine. I just feel like we're setting a bar very high for somewhere that Arkansas has not regularly been in a very long time.
I'm 110, and I'll admit it. I'm 110% guilty of that, because of just how much of a gamble this is, how important this is. Because the thing is, if you got Franklin, his price tag is going to be way higher. It's going to be more of a gamble if this thing flames out, opposed to, not saying you're going to go get somebody at $5 or $6 million. I don't know. You might. But I think if you're going to throw James Franklin, he's going to want 8, 9, 10 million a year to come here and coach. And if it doesn't work out, where does that put you? It's a PTSD thing, man. It's just how things have went and how important this trajectory is in the landscape of where Arkansas is in this NIL portal. I think you have to have that home run. You've got to get that guy. And if he doesn't check all the boxes, you don't go after him. That's just my prerogative on him. And he could very well come in and surprise and shock. But we really got to think about the gamble that we are doing when we're looking at him as a potential head coach. One, is he going to get the boosters backing? Is he going to get the money? Is he going to get the recruits? Is he going to be able to recruit down here? This is a new era. So I guess in a sense, I'm kind of washing what he did at Vandy because we're in a different era. I put more on what Signetti's doing at Indiana because we are in a different era, and he took a team like Indiana from coaching at James Madison and built them. So I don't know. It could be one of them things that he just ran its course at Penn State. He got complacent, and he could come here and catch fire, get a redo back in the SEC. That's a potential. It's just, but yeah, I mean, I have to be completely honest of my rationale when it comes to James Franklin. As you see that, and you're like, oh, because you go back to Brett Bielema. Look what he did in all the Big 10 championship games and the Rose Bowls he made, and then he comes here and it was a product of that Big 10 system, and it just didn't work here in the SEC. So,
but you could argue that same point with, yes, he's doing it currently.
Yeah,
who I'm Signetti. But it could be that exact same thing if he comes to an SEC. It's a gamble for anybody that you bring into the SEC.
Well, and that's why I'm saying when I put it out there, you need a guy like Signetti. You need a guy like Dan Lanning. You need a guy who's going to come in, no nonsense. He's going to be able to get full backing of the BOT and the boosters to get the money that he needs. And he comes in and he changes the culture of this program. And again, it starts above him. So that's going to be a big swing. I mean, we could sit here and ask for these coaches, but if we're not willing to change the times of this athletic program, it's all a wash, because no matter, we can get Saban. If we're not embracing the NIL, you see what's happening. But you're seeing teams like Auburn play with Georgia. You're seeing more teams being able to compete and win with other programs because they are going all out.
And one thing before we go, I think that whoever we do get, I think that you're going to get the NIL backing finally. You're going to get the donations finally, because, Board of Trust, I'm kind of going with what we have been told, and that this athletic director is not having any part of this coaching search. So if that's true, and that it's the board of trustees and such that are doing their due diligence in this part, then I think whoever you bring in, we will finally have the backing that we've been told. But then if we do, get one of the guys on their list, and then we still see the same thing of not getting the backing, then we have now successfully confirmed that they do not believe in the football program whatsoever.
Yeah. And this right here, we act like Franklin hasn't won in the NIL era. I mean, he's 17-26, 40% winning percentage in the top 25 games, top 10 games, he's 4-21. So, I mean, yeah, he's won, but I mean, I've talked about Dabo for the last month. I mean, this guy's won ACC championships. He's won 2 national championships, but you look at where they're at now. Are they on that same level as what they were pre-NIL? They're not. So you have to have somebody that comes in and wants to change this thing around. But the biggest thing with Bobby is, if you're going to go with Bobby and you want him to be the head guy, maybe that saves you some money and you get some killer coordinators. And if you're going to stay true to your word and you're going to give him all the money he needs, then I'll trust the process. Do I think it's going to be the best thing? But I'll trust the process if I know that he's got the backing of the portal. And we'll see what happens again this week against Texas A&M. I mean, this is going to be a big swing. If you want to convince me that I think Bobby Petrino needs to be considered heavily for this job, I want to see the effort coming off this loss, see how they perform against the number 4 team in the country at home. These next 3 games are going to be very important for his audition for me personally. Because, I mean, I could change my mind. I mean, we still got 6 more games. I'm going right now in this moment, but I'm telling you, they reel off some wins. I mean, and they do it convincingly, and they beat all these ranked teams ahead of them. I mean, you look at it, if you beat Texas A&M, and another thing, that's a game you haven't been able to win. So let's just throw this scenario out real quick before we wrap up. You beat Texas A&M, beat LSU, and Missouri. You beat those 2 teams that you have the utmost trouble beating, and maybe a win against Texas because, they're up and down. Then I would consider him being the head coach.
That's it'd be hard to not, or to argue against it.
Yeah.
At that point. So it's one of those that they've got to take it game by game. I mean, we can play out every which scenario, and I'm sure we're going to after every single game. It's going to be, how do we feel now? What's the temperature on Bobby Petrino now? But at this point in time, I mean, it's, it was one game that they fared a heck of a lot better than we expected.
Mm-hmm.
The team looked a heck of a lot better than we had previously seen. So I'm not necessarily completely writing it off. I just, at this point in time, I don't want to circle the block, and that's where I'm going to stand with it. But we'll see how the rest of the season goes, starting Saturday against Texas A&M.
And look, we're going to wrap it up here for this episode of the Hog Talk podcast. But look, come back in an hour. Adam and the guys at Hog HQ will carry on the conversation. So jump in the conversations. We're loving the interaction. We love the conversation that we're having here on Hog Talk. It's the fact that, you know what, we're not going to ever, laugh at anybody's opinion that's not ours, or we're not ever going to sit here and be like, look at this guy. I want people to disagree with us because that makes everything flow, go back and forth. So we appreciate every comment coming in here, and we'll carry on the conversation for the Texas A&M game on Thursday. We're going to look getting a Texas A&M guest on, so be looking for that. And don't forget to come back 8:05. We want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. All of our sponsors. Again, the opening odds via FanDuel, 7.5 over under our 60.5. And we will catch you on Thursday.